Buccaneers as they won versus the Philadelphia Eagles, a final score of 32-9. We are going to be going over all the stats in this live stream here on the Bleacher Report app. I thank you so much to everybody who is watching in and tuning in on this live stream. As I said, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win 32-9 against a Philadelphia Eagles team that, yes, a lot of people may have been down on. Yes, a lot of people are going to say that, well, they lost 5 out of their last 6. Is this really that impressive of a win? The answer is absolutely. It is impressive of a win. You've got to remember that this is a Philadelphia Eagles team at one point this year was 10-1 on the year and had Jalen Hurts in MVP types of conversations, had all this hype surrounding them, was a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went out there and not only won, but essentially dominated in their performance overall. An absolute team domination from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No other way to put it. And that's a statement. That's a statement that this is a team that can go out there and can win versus the Detroit Lions in their dome and possibly make some noise in that type of a situation. This is a statement for Todd Bowles. This is a statement for Baker Mayfield. Any way you want to put it, this is a Bucs team that proved so many doubters wrong throughout this year, and they just did that yet again in this playoff game. So let's go ahead and go over it, right? And firstly, we got to talk about the offense. We have to, right? I mean, that's just absolutely has to be the first thing that we talk about here. Baker Mayfield. Baker freaking Mayfield, folks. 22 of 36, 337 passing yards, along with 16 rushing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times, and he did have a passer rating of 119.8. Folks, Baker Mayfield was phenomenal in this game. And you got to remember, he should have had more. He should have had more passing yards in this game and possibly even another touchdown as well, because he was in a situation where he was having some of his wide receivers get some drops, which was tough. I'm going to be completely honest. That was a bit of a tough situation, and we will talk about that here in a moment. But Baker Mayfield looked great in this game. He looked great. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to put it. Baker Mayfield went out there, did what he needed to do, looked phenomenal throughout the process. And that's the first thing I want to talk about, this being a statement game for Baker Mayfield. Folks, we've talked about this. We've talked about this in multiple live streams here on the Bleacher Report app, right? Where I've had a lot of love for Baker Mayfield throughout this process, throughout this season. I think that he's had a career renaissance, if you will. And I feel like that it just got even better. You go in first year with a team, you take this team to the playoffs, and then you go ahead and you win against an 11-6 football team that was competing for the NFC East, 3rd seed essentially, and you put up a phenomenal game. This, to me, was a statement game by Baker Mayfield. It shows that he's going to be back in Tampa Bay for a good long while, hopefully, if everything goes well, and that he just belongs. He just belongs on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team that moves with Baker. When he plays well, the team plays well. The drive, the grittiness, all the different types of things that you want to see out of a star quarterback, you're seeing, and you just got even more proof of that because he just went out there and won you a playoff game. How many quarterbacks do you know have been out here winning playoff games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? In recent memory, only Tom Brady. All the other quarterbacks the Bucs have had in recent history have not been able to do it. Baker Mayfield did it. He did it, and he did it well. There's no doubt in my mind that Baker Mayfield's going to be back with the Bucs. I think right now you can say that Baker Mayfield is the guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and is going to be the quarterback of this team for the foreseeable future. Congratulations to Baker Mayfield for having such a phenomenal game. He really went out there and did a fantastic job. I want to zoom in a little bit more so we can take a look at this. Rachaad White, 18 carries, 72 yards. The Bucs ran the football very well in this game. Very well. An average of 4 yards per carry. 1.7 yards for Chase Edmonds. He got a lot of late game work. Baker Mayfield had a couple of really gritty scrambles as well throughout this process. That's not surprising. That's just what Baker Mayfield does, is put up gritty runs and gritty scrambles. He did that yet again in this game. But I also like the creativity from Dave Canales in the offense. As you guys can see here, Devin Tompkins had an end around for 10 yards. Trey Palmer had an end around for 9 yards. This was a Bucs offense that was really firing on all cylinders, was really cooking. And I'm going to give credit to the creativity of Dave Canales and this Buccaneers offense. They really were able to make some magic there, really get creative, and it worked. It worked. They executed well. There was a lot of times where some of those guys had to do something with nothing, and they were able to do so. The offense looked great. However, there were a couple of things I want to talk about here. Firstly, K. Dotton did fantastic. He ate tonight. 8 catches for 89 yards, 11 targets on the night. But there was a couple of drops. There was 2. K. Dotton should have very much had over 100 yards and a touchdown tonight. But a couple of drops were crucial in the first half. In the second half, things cleaned up. Things looked, very much improved in the second half. But you got to focus earlier on in football games. Of course, the Bucs know that, and they will look to correct that in their next matchup versus the Lions. David Moore and Trey Palmer. Now, if I told you guys that David Moore and Trey Palmer were going to be 2 of the stars of the offense in this game today, would you have believed me? I think the answer would probably be no. I think that would probably be a safe answer. David Moore had 3 targets, 2 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Trey Palmer had 2 targets, 1 catch, 56 yards, and a touchdown as well. Absolute all-star level stuff there. He had a 44-yard touchdown to David Moore, a 56-yard touchdown to Trey Palmer. It was great. And some people may say, well, the Eagles' tackling was really bad. I don't care. Yards and touchdowns are yards and touchdowns. The Buccaneers were able to execute at a high level, and they got that job done. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were a little bit more quiet throughout this game, but they still got some decent stats in there. Mike Evans, 7 targets, 3 catches, 48 yards. Chris Godwin, 5 targets, 4 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown in there as well. Both those guys got the ball rolling. Both those guys were able to make some plays later in the second half. Chris Godwin had the last Buccaneers touchdown to put them up 32-9, really seal the game essentially. And it was great. You love an offensive situation where multiple guys are stepping up, multiple guys are making plays and scoring touchdowns especially. The Bucs had that in spades tonight and absolutely tore apart this Eagles defense. Real quick before I talk about the defense, which was, in my opinion, probably the biggest star of the show, I got to give credit to Chase McLaughlin. 3 of 3 on field goals, a long of 54, 3 of 3 on extra points. Chase McLaughlin should and probably will be back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When the Bucs were settling for field goals instead of touchdowns in the first half, Chase McLaughlin was carrying. And that's a situation where momentum can swing so hugely. A missed field goal or a missed opportunity like that can really plague a football team. Was not the case. Chase McLaughlin was one of the biggest reasons for that. Simple as that, folks. Simple as that. You even saw some decent returns from Devin Tompkins tonight. Every phase of the special teams, offense and defense, the Bucs looked like a complete football team. They looked like a team that was going to go out there and shock the world and prove the world wrong. And they did that. They did just that. But now I want to talk about the defense, because the defense, in my opinion, was the star of tonight. The absolute star of tonight. Jamel Dean, in my opinion, he had his best game as a Buck this season. 10 total tackles on the night, 1 pass deflection, 1 tackle for loss. I know Devonta Smith went crazy in this game. And we'll look at the Eagles stats in a little bit. But Jamel Dean, I still think, was great in open field tackling. He was just sure-handed. He was sure tackling, and that's what you want out of a cornerback. Great game by Jamel Dean. Levante David, all-star level. All-star. 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. I think he had it says fumble recovered, I believe. He had a forced fumble. That was on Julio Jones. I think he would end up recovering his own fumble. He did. But great job by Levante David. Was fantastic throughout this game. Kalijah Kancey, the young rookie. And this has been the story of the Bucs defense this year, right? Is young rookies getting opportunities, young rookies having to go out there and make plays. Kalijah Kancey had a half sack and was pressuring Jalen Hurts so much throughout this game, as was the rest of the Bucs pass rush. But Kalijah Kancey was a big part of that. He had a great game. Carlton Davis had 2 passes defended. Zion McCollum had a couple of big hits throughout the game. I'm going to admit, Antoine Winfield Jr. was quiet in this game. He did give up a bit of a deep pass throughout the game as well, but the defense still played at their peak when they needed to. KJ Britt and Devin White, honestly, looked like they were splitting time a lot in this game. KJ Britt had a fantastic play to stop the quarterback sneak, the tush push of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the first time I've seen it stopped this year. I think it may have been stopped 1 or 2 other times, but on a 2-point conversion, arguably the last gasp of the Philadelphia Eagles momentum, KJ Britt made the play on that. That is notable. That is worth talking about. But him and Devin White split time a lot tonight, and we didn't hear much from Devin White throughout the game, but KJ Britt made that impactful play. I'm going to give him all the credit in the world. I think he should be a starting linebacker for the Bucs next season. He very well may have to be a starting linebacker for the Bucs next season based on what happens this offseason. Greg Gaines, 2 tackles, a tackle for loss, a sack. I think he had a quarterback hit somewhere in there as well. He had a solo tackle. My apologies. Greg Gaines got a little bit of pressure. Vita Vea had a half sack in there as well. Yaya Diaby, again, a guy who you could argue is going to get a vote or 2 in the Rookie of the Year conversation. He didn't have a lot of stats. He had 1 tackle. He left the game with injury, but he had a lot of pressure tonight on Jalen Hurts. Anthony Nelson, he didn't have a sack, but he did bring down Jalen Hurts in the end zone, forced him to throw the ball away, which resulted in a safety because of an intentional grounding penalty. Just any way you look at it, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka had a sack tonight. The Bucs defense was phenomenal. And this is where you make a statement for Todd Bowles. I talked earlier about this being a statement game for Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield. I talked about Baker. This is Todd Bowles' defense that played the Eagles earlier in the year, gave up, I think it was 25, something along those lines, came into this game, only gave up 9. And yes, A.J. Brown was not in this game, and that could have very much been a big factor. But one man does not make a team. One receiver does not make a passing attack. And also a rushing attack, which is the bread and butter of the Philadelphia Eagles, is what they've really been known for offensively this year. And the Bucs shut that down. The Bucs did not give up the lead throughout the entirety of this game. Do you guys understand how big of a deal that is against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles? I'm going to give Todd Bowles all the credit in the world for that. I think he deserves to be back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For those of you who do not know, midway through this year when the Bucs were 4-7, I was extremely down on Todd Bowles. There was a point where they lost the Indianapolis Colts where I said if the season ended today, Todd Bowles would be fired. What happened? Todd Bowles won 5 out of their last 6 games, won the NFC South, went to the playoffs, and just won a playoff game and went to the next round. That is huge. Jason Light and the Glaziers are breathing a sigh of relief right now because Todd Bowles just proved that he can hang. Todd Bowles just proved that he can win a playoff game. That's awesome. I'm happy for Todd Bowles. You don't want to see people lose their jobs, but if it is an inevitable, if it is a situation that you have to make it. And I think if the Bucs lost this game, you may have been asking some genuine questions of, is Todd Bowles going to be staying? Is he going to be getting fired? Those questions have evaporated. They're gone. It's not a thing anymore because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just won, and they just won in dominant fashion in part because of Todd Bowles' defense. And I know Jalen Hurts looks like he had a great game. 25 of 35, 250 yards, a touchdown. But what matters most is that this Bucs defense, this Bucs team bent but did not break. That is the reality of the situation. That's on Todd Bowles and his coaching staff. I'm really happy for Todd Bowles. That's awesome. That's awesome. You love to see that. You really do. DeAndre Swift had 10 carries for 34 yards today. Jalen Hurts had 1 carry for 5. Kenneth Gainwell, 4 carries for 2. The Eagles were playing behind the entirety of this game, so it makes sense that they had to pass the football a lot in this matchup. But folks, this is, again, when it was 16-9 at one point, when it was a one-score game after the first half, the Eagles could have ran the football. They could have ran it in the first half. They could have ran it in the second half. They didn't do it. Why? Because they couldn't do it. And that's for Todd Bowles. That is for Todd Bowles, man. All the credit in the world. And you look, Devonta Smith had 148 of those 250 yards from Jalen Hurts. Besides that, crickets. 32 yards for DeAndre Swift is the second best receiving total on the day. Incredible. Incredible stuff from this defense. Only 1 field goal from Jake Elliott. I want to see how many punts they forced. If we can see it. I don't know if we are going to be able to see it. I guess not. But it was just an absolutely great game by the Bucs, by the defense, by this team as a whole. They looked great. You take a look here. Time of possession, the Buccaneers dominated. I'm going to zoom in so we can see this together. Total yards, 426. You held the Eagles to 275 total yards on the day. That's winning football right there every single Sunday. 119 rushing yards to the Eagles, 41. Folks, this is an Eagles rushing attack that was the best rushing attack in the league, and you held them to 41 rushing yards. 23 first downs to the Eagles, 13. Penalties were not bad. No turnovers on the game either. This isn't even, besides maybe 1 or 2, besides a turnover on downs late in the game and a safety for the Bucs, no takeaways. The Eagles played pretty safe football. 69 total plays to the Eagles, 53. I believe the Eagles had to punt 4 or 5 times tonight. A masterclass football, man. Masterclass. Absolutely great effort from the players, from the coaches, and a lot of guys. I wouldn't even say saved their jobs, because even if the Bucs lost, I think a lot of guys would still be back or still be in the conversation to be back. But the statement you just made is, we belong, and this can work. That's what they just proved. Todd Bowles proved that as the head coach. Baker Mayfield proved that as the quarterback, folks. It was just phenomenal to watch. And now you have a matchup against the Detroit Lions. We'll probably be talking about that tomorrow on here on the Bleacher Report app at 11:30 a.m. So stay tuned for that as well. But what you saw here, you've got to feel great. What a confidence builder for the Bucs. They're one of the last 8 teams left in the league, and if they win, they go to the NFC Championship game. Oh my goodness, folks. You've got to feel really good about the Bucs' chances against the Lions, or at least better against the Lions now, because you get a game like this. It wasn't like the Bucs just barely won. It was close at the first half. They dominated the second half. This game was not close after, let's say midway through the third quarter. And now moving forward, you've got to feel great about this Bucs team, because they made a statement that, hey, look, Philly, they were looking bad coming into this game. That's fine. We can beat them. They were 1 game away from winning the NFC East. That's fine. We can beat them. And now we're one of the last 8 teams. Now we're going to go into Detroit, and we're going to look to do it again and just continue to prove people wrong. That's what they're looking to do. Such a great win, and I'm so happy for so many people and the results of this matchup. This season has been a great success for the Bucs so far already, folks. And and now you get to keep on just increasing that story. So, guys, thank you so much for watching this live stream here on the Bleacher Report app. Again, my name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where I talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. By the way, you can find all Tampa Bay Buccaneers stuff here on the Bleacher Report app, where you can not just find stuff about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL, but the NBA, NHL, MLB, and all other sports. I will be back here tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. to discuss even more Tampa Bay Buccaneers football with you guys. So stay tuned for that live stream as well. Thank you to everybody who was in the chat tonight. Thank you to everybody who has watched this live stream, be it now or in post. And I will see you all in the next live stream tomorrow to talk about the matchup against the Detroit Lions. Thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, guys, I'll see you all in the next live stream or the next video here on Bleacher Report. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now. The Buccaneers move on to the divisional round, and see you guys soon.